Hey, everybody. It's your brother, Ralph Barella, aka Van Silk, hip hop pioneer, hip hop true historian. Been around hip hop since the very beginning, before it was records. One of the early promoters. And I was asked, to help with this topic about freestyles. So, I mean, different variations of freestyles. And I could say, in the beginning, before there were records, you know, uh, for example, Melly Mel would have some rhymes that he will say at a park jam. But trust me, they were written, because I've never seen in the early days, unless you was anybody who just really came off the dome, and if they did it, really half the time it didn't make sense. Now, when you look at Busy B, who was more of a crowd motivator, like, what's your favorite sign? Leo, the Virgo, or what's your favorite gene? That's more of a crowd motivation type, and what you would do in hip hop. When Melly Mel will do, when him and his brother Kid Creole were like one of the first ones to do 4 and 8 bar rhymes. It was basically still a freestyle because it wasn't a song. It wasn't a song because there was no records. And it sounded good and it looked good, especially when the DJ was cutting, because you knew what you was going to say. I rarely see anybody just come off the dome, because if you come off the dome, evidently you had to think about what you was going to say, because it had to make sense. When I go and look at certain people, Bismarcky was one. Kane was another one who could basically, come at it. Roxanne Shante, Kool Moe Dee. Now, a lot of people want to talk about the Kool Moe Dee Busy B. Okay. The night Moe Dee came into Harlem World, and that was a show me and AJ, God bless his soul, promoted, done with the Harlem World crew. Moe Dee knew what he was going to say, but he's so good at it, and people never heard it before. Oh, that was a dope freestyle, because it's not a record. It's not a song. It's something that you freely are doing with the DJ cutting in the background. And I was that first generation, of when you was freestyling, or when you was, basically doing it because it's not a song. The Cold Crush Brothers, what they did were routines. Fantastic Five were routines. The early Funky Four versus the Furious Four, they already knew what they was going to say. They knew what they was going to say, because if you feel that you're just going to come off the dome, trust me, you're going to mess up. And if for anybody to say, well, I don't have a book of rhymes, then you're not a real MC. Because, when people say, well, Jay-Z go in the studio and he'll say some rhymes in the studio without a book. Trust me, if it ain't memorized, because a real MC will always have, it was like an encyclopedia of just keeping rhymes in their database. They can remember stuff. It's easier to remember your rhymes than to remember a lot of your old songs. Now, when you go and look at the Locks, when they did Diplomat, Chic Luke and Style P knew what Jada was going to say. Because it might sound like a freestyle to you, but it's basically a rhyme routine that he was going to say. How many times have you seen a lot of dudes at a freestyle battle and they boys are standing in the background behind them, knowing what they're going to say, mouthing it off and like lip syncing and ad-libbing, because they already know. Now, I hear everybody talking about the Eminem situation. Eminem sits there and he writes things, he pens things down, and he memorizes the stuff, because that's his craft. And the stuff from what they saying he said on the Nas album, or that was a dope freestyle he said, because you never heard it. And it's how he projects it, because it's not in a song format. He just came and might have spit some bars on there, and that's a dope freestyle. Understand, there's very few people that might be able to just come straight off the dome and with perfection. I look at Papoose as one of those artists. but he still got to formulate it to make sure it makes sense. You know, when you go and look at the new kid, R.J. Payne, you know, or when you look at Big L, God bless his soul. These guys were good, but don't think that they didn't write these rhymes down. Or doodle this rhyme here, and I'm gonna put this with that, and I got it here, so if somebody come at me, you know, I got something for them, because nobody never heard it. Because I've never seen or known anybody just to sit up here and just say stuff that made a lot of sense. But now you do got people that do say things that are real good. I think Black Thought is one of those type of guys, because you have to have vocabulary, especially when you know you want to do, when you want to battle from a freestyle point of view. Okay? And I'm talking about words, not short words like from the 3-letter word. I'm talking about vocabulary. Because a lot of artists say they don't really have a great vocabulary when they freestyling. And again, freestyling again is basically from when we started hip hop, lyrics not in a record format, because it's not formatted to be a record. Melly Mel would never use A Child Is Born, A State of Mind, Blind in the Way of Mankind as a freestyle, because it's written in a song format. You know, then you have a lot of great MCs that make great records, but they're not battle MCs, they're not freestyle MCs. Like, when you look at Chuck D, I talked to Chuck D one time, like, yo, Van, that's not what I do. You know, I've been trying to get, you know, when I first came up with Rakim won to battle Kane in 1990 after I did Rap Mania, you know, Kane was ready, but Rakim made good records. Rakim, personally, and I love the brother, I don't think he's not that MC to, boom, Chaos One, yes. But if you don't think Chris don't write none of this stuff down and he knows what he's going to say, then something is wrong with people. When you look at Method Man and Redman, different. But, you know, from my generation, and I look at the generations to come, you know, when I looked at the Locks and Dipset, you know, Jim Jones and Jules Santana's not those type of MCs. Cam used to be, like Mace, you know. When you go and look at, I might say little Ice Cube, but little. But if you ain't never been battle tested, and I'm not talking about the new one they doing now where they just doing more like, you know, no music, just going back and forth. That's totally a whole new generation of what you're doing. Everybody's smelling everybody's breath. And if you ain't never been battle tested, like, you can't never say no rhyme that's in none of your songs. But I can guarantee the rhyme that you're going to say, you know what you're going to say. Because when I wanted to do LL versus Kool Moe Dee, and I offered them $1 million after I did Rap Mania, and I offered Kane and Rakim $500,000, Moe Dee was ready. But I knew what Mo was going to do because of Mo's vocabulary. L is good for verses, but to lyrically go straight MC to MC, and you got somebody like Mo with a college education, not saying L is dumb, but just the education from new language rap into the vocabulary of shit that makes sense, Mo is good. And I guarantee Mo will never tell you, yo, I'm just saying shit off the dome. Now, when I look at my brother K Slade with the Rolling Deep, 110 MCs on the Rolling Deep, and he did the 50, but now he got the 110, and we working on the 200 right now. Everybody got 8 bars. Now, you got some people who could just come out with 8 bars, like Mikey D. Okay? You got King. You got Grandmaster Cash. You got the Melly Mels, and can come with 8 bars or even 16 bars without basically having to write something. It could just be some new spontaneous shit, but you're just not going to be going just forever all night because it ain't going to work out. Trust me, I've seen many failures. Listen, I've been in hip-hop since 1978. Like I said, And I've seen the different generations. I love a lot of the MCs today. There's a lot of talent out there. I want y'all to know that. But I just want to make it clear. There's different categories of freestyles. And you do have some MCs or rappers that can spit off the dome. But I think they're the ones who's not getting the light to shine. That's what I have to say. And the reason why Jada and them did so well against Jim Jones and them, Dipset. If it was in a studio setting and just had to play records, it could have been a different outcome. But you're sitting up there on stage, Madison Square Garden, everybody and their mama is there. And like they say, listen, when me and K Slade was putting out a lot of mixed CDs back in the 90s and they all was on the come up, you know, Dipset and the Lox were the most two selling guys that had mixed CDs. And a lot of the Lox mixed CDs were freestyles, you know, like, well, they wasn't songs, so we consider them freestyle, you know, like you come over to K Slade house, you know, First Avenue, second floor, you go up there and you spit to a beat, okay? Cam did it. But when Cam and Dipset and Jules and Jimmy made those songs, they were songs. They were Diplomat songs. They were Jim Jones songs, J.R. Ryder, you know, Hell Rell, all that. The Lox will come up there and spit to a beat. You got some people that will say like, yo, just throw on a beat. Whether they memorize it or good. Some, as you get the flow going, you get the mechanics of what you want to say, it will just start to bounce in a flow. So when I see people like Mano and all these guys, yo, these guys are good. And I think the argument over whether somebody is freestyling these days is like really don't even make sense anymore, because at the end of the day, if you ain't writing your stuff down, then you're losing money on royalties and writers and a lot of the stuff that's being used. So, and a lot of people got books with lyrics and rhymes in it. So some are called lyrics, and lyrics are basically for songs, and a lot of people have rhymes that would never be on songs, but it could be put into certain things as songs. Like Tupac would never be an MC to battle. That's not, for me, that's not just what he do. You got guys out here that will really go deep in your ass lyrically. You don't want Papoose. You don't want that. You don't want Cannabis. You don't want those dudes. You don't want the Mikey D's and the KRS-One coming at you, because they'll give you some fire. You know, you got a lot of, you know, I was listening to Young Ma today. I think she's good off the dome. You got the girl Rhapsody out of Philly. So basically, from an OG to the young G's and to SOHH.com, this is my version of freestyle. And basically what I'm going to say is you got those who do it, you got those who will memorize it and do it, and you got those who can't come off the dome. But a lot of them really want to be careful what they say when they come off the dome, because it gotta make sense. And I ain't talking about short words like, yo, at the cat with the bat, the hat, and slap the jack and all that. I ain't talking about those little words. I'm talking about words. You know, 4 bars. I mean, no, like 4 bars of just a rhyme that makes sense. Cause a lot of shit gotta make sense. When Kumo D walked in Harlem World that night, said, "Busy Bee Starsky, I'm sorry to be bold, to put the bar, did the bar, put that shit on hold. Man, that rhyme about Diddy by Diddy. Man, that shit was a fucking pity." That was back in 1981. Shit was different. Okay? But as we grow in hip hop, you know, it expands and the vocabulary expands and the topic expands, and, you know, everything's, you know, get more, you know, complicated. And, you know, when you go and look at Tongue Twister or you look at E40, like E40 can give you some shit. Twister can give you some shit. Stan Spit can give you some shit. So, like, I'm just saying, I wish I could be on live with y'all tonight, but I'm sending, you know, giving you this here, and hopefully I'm accepted into your world from, you know, my mind, process, and thought. This is your brother Van Silk, aka Rapparella. You can follow me on Instagram at Rapamania, RAPAMANIA_Van Silk. All right, brothers, peace to hip hop, 40th anniversary. I'm out.